Welcome to my discussion of The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. This is a wonderful Christmas classic, but even beyond the holiday references, The Gift of the Magi poses some interesting questions that still hold wide appeal regardless of your religious affiliation. If you haven't read or listened to the story, then you will want to do that before you come back to this recording. Not because I give a lot of spoilers, but because the questions I want to look at require that you have some background in order to engage with them. O. Henry, unlike many of the authors that we study and learn about, actively sought to make his living as an author, which means that his stories were written to a mass audience and selected for publication based on the belief that they would be widely read. For the purposes of literary analysis, this means that the author might have made some choices based on marketability rather than other factors in his writing. That being said, the author was successful, and this story has seen broad use in school and churches for many, many years. The Gift of the Magi has seen use in reading and literature programs from elementary school through university. Why is that? What about this story is so appealing? The first question I like to ask my students is to think about how the story is told. Why do you think the author chose to tell the story from Della's perspective? What does this do for the reader? The story could just as easily be told from Jim's perspective. If we really want to break out of the box, this story could have been told as a joke. We could have the same story told with Jim sitting in a bar somewhere, with him holding up his empty watch chain and sobbing into his drink about how Christmas was ruined. Both perspectives would hinge on the same irony, but the mood of the story and its theme would change significantly. So, why Della? What feelings does the author evoke because he chose Della over Jim? What about the setting? How does that change the mood of the story? There is an undercurrent or sub-theme of poverty going on in the story. Why do you think the author included that? Do you think that we would have been able to get the same feeling of complete love and acceptance on the part of the couple if the setting was changed or if their perspective was changed? This is one of the rare times when an author comes out directly and speaks to the audience, breaking the fourth wall, and tells us what he is thinking and what his message is, or at least hinting at it. He writes, quote, "But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest." End quote. Referring, of course, to Jim and Della and their gifts. Why do you think he says that they were the wisest? What is wisdom, and how do Jim and Della show wisdom? On the surface, Jim and Della are idiots. All they had to do was sit down and talk with each other for 5 minutes, and they could have avoided a financial disaster. Combined, they blew through 2 full weeks of Jim's wages on gifts that neither of them can use. At the end of the day, they have less money than they had started with, and nothing to show for it, and the situation was completely avoidable. So, how is this wisdom? What is the wisdom that the author is referring to? What great gift did they give to each other that is so special? For those of you who don't know, the Magi in The Gift of the Magi refers to the story in the Bible when the wise men brought gifts to Jesus. Often these are referred to as the 3 wise men, although how many there were, how wise they were, or whether or not they were all men are questions that biblical scholars have debated and will continue to debate for years. That is all beside the point. The Magi brought gifts. Jim and Della gave gifts. Both are considered wise. Why is that? What is it about giving gifts that brings wisdom? One last point I want to bring up is timelessness. In my introduction, I talked about the broad appeal of the story and its wide success. Do you think that the story applies in the same way today? Do the messages of the story still appeal to audiences the way that they did before? Which audiences might the story not appeal to, and why? As our society has evolved and continues to evolve, does the story's message about the nature of wisdom and foolishness still apply? How might the values of people have changed today that might affect how people receive this story? If O. Henry brought this story to a publisher today, do you think the publisher would accept it? Why or why not? If you think the publisher would reject the story, what do you think that he would need to change in order for the story to be published today? And why do you think that? Thank you for tuning in to Literature Discussions with Kelly Tolman, and be sure to check out all of my video and audio content at literaturediscussions.com. Thanks, and good reading.